seeing the field so much better. And, guys, we could all see it from our couches probably on Monday night when they played San Francisco. I mean, it looked like we were watching an Aaron Rodgers type, a Russell Wilson type of quarterback out there with how crisp he was, how productive he was. And, offensive coordinator Brian Daboll even said after the game, he just was locked in, which then affected the play calling, which is why he was able to orchestrate what he did and why it was probably one of the best games that we've seen Josh Allen play in the NFL. And guys, we know this team, they love to throw the ball. They have, no qualms about doing it. They lead the league on passes, on first down. And, getting the weapons became a really important part of his success. Obviously getting Stephon Diggs, getting that trade to join this team has been tremendous. It's opened up other opportunities for Cole Beasley. So in terms of the mindset of the Steelers going into this game, I'm sensing significant concern. But one part of it is because the Steelers really are on a short week here, and they're coming off, I think it's 3 games in 12 days, right? So they have that working against them. They now got that undefeated record sort of off their shoulders. But now coming into this game, this is a team that's very similar, guys. Neither likes to run the ball. We're going to see a lot of passing in this game. And I do think that the matchup of these receivers for the Bills with the Steelers secondary could be a really big challenge for them.
All guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. Diana, Brandon Beane, general manager of the Buffalo Bills, just signed his extension, so clearly the Bills are happy with him and some of the moves that he's made. How important was it for him to go out and get Stephon Diggs so that he can grow and teach Josh Allen how to be a quarterback?
That was probably one of the most significant moves that he has made. But let's not forget, so Sean McDermott joined the team in 2017 as the head coach. They didn't hire a GM until after the draft. That's when he went and grabbed Brandon Beane. So now skip forward to the next draft, head coach, GM together, and the first pick that Brandon Beane makes is Josh Allen. He trades up to get him. And, he took that risk. If you guys remember during that draft, he was criticized for that. We had our own analyst on the air saying, what are they thinking? This is a 0-star recruit out of JUCO who went to Wyoming. This isn't a quarterback that could really turn into what we've seen now. So the fact that he was right on this is huge. And really, he hit it out of the park with getting Diggs, taking that chance of trading out for a first-rounder to get him. And we saw the production that Diggs had in Minnesota, but in terms of where he's at, his comfort, his overall happiness, because, guys, you've seen Diggs enough on TV. You've seen him in press conferences. He's an emotional guy. He's a receiver. That. Man. So, so he's in a good place. Anytime I talk to Stephon, he's like a different person than he was when I used to talk to him in Minnesota. So the fact that this is all coming together and being orchestrated by an offensive coordinator like Brian Daboll, who's had so much success with this team and has done a really good job play calling, guys, this works. This is a team that is just going to keep improving, which is what we're seeing over the last few weeks.
Diana, we only have 30 seconds here. How do you expect the Steelers to respond to their first loss?
I think Mike Tomlin's going to do what Mike Tomlin does best, which is he's going to figure out a way to motivate them. I don't sense that they're panicked after their performance. We know everyone's been talking about the obvious storylines about all the receivers dropping the ball, Ben having to be better. I think that this is going to be a really close game because the Steelers, they want to prove that they're better than what they showed against the Washington football team. And I think we can all argue that the Steelers are a lot better than Washington is. So I assume that they're just going to come back and they're going to respond and play real tough, real hard up in Buffalo.
Ooh, she hit it right on time.
27 seconds.
Oh, right on the 30.
Diana.
Right on the 30.
Well done.
All right, well done.
They call me a professional, guys. I know you think I'm a joke, but I am a pro.
And we thought those 30 seconds only counted on Sunday NFL Countdown. That's an inside TV joke that Diana surely will appreciate. Safe travels to Orchard Park, Diana. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Have an awesome weekend.
You too. Quick last note. The Bills won their first Monday night game this century over on Monday when they knocked off the Niners. Now they'll look for a win on the biggest stage in football, frankly, a place they haven't been very much over the last few years, Sunday night. Let's go from A to Z. You're Giants fan your whole life, but if you ride on down the schedule right now, you're kind of a little antsy at this moment, aren't you?
Well, I know that we got the win in Seattle. Don't know what Russell Wilson was doing that game, but our defense came to play. Gallman was incredible. Colt McCoy was serviceable. Daniel Jones coming back. You know, you question that hamstring injury. How will he be? But I look at the schedule, having the Cardinals come in town. Then you play a Browns team that is playing really well right now, a Ravens team at Baltimore that has their back against the wall trying to make the playoffs. Then the Cowboys, you know, you hope that they can go 2-2 in this scenario. I get worried about, look, there's no wild card opportunity for the Giants. It's going to be the winner of the NFC East, and the Washington football team is just playing great football right now. They're playing really good football, and their schedule is easier on the back end at the 49ers, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Eagles. You're hoping that both teams can go 2-2. I don't know if I trust in the Giants down the stretch. I want us to make the playoffs. We talked about this yesterday. I'm afraid of how good the Washington football team is playing.
So interesting. The FPI chance to win has given the Giants a 49% chance to win against Cleveland, but only a 39% chance to win against the Cardinals.
Seems odd, doesn't it? Cardinals have lost 4 of 5.
Yeah,
Browns are on fire.
Traveling and the weather and it's so.
Weird. You wonder how the Browns will respond coming off their game against the Ravens. I think they play the Ravens this weekend, right?
They do Monday on ESPN.
Okay, so how will they respond off that short week? I don't know. It'll be interesting.
The Giants, to me, only need to win one game, right? 6 wins should be able to be enough for that division.
You don't think the Washington football team gets 2 wins out of the 49ers, Seahawks, Panthers, and Eagles? The Giants. That's what I get worried about, right?
Seahawks,
they're both 5-7.
Panthers, Eagles.
Look at the Panthers.
The Panthers game will be an emotional game. So
the Ron Rivera coaching against his old team.
Yeah, that'll be an emotional game. Seattle needs to win to try to win the division and stay somewhere in the wild card hunt, obviously. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to come down to the wire there.
But the Giants have the tiebreaker.
If they were to tie out.
If they were to tie out, the Giants have the tiebreaker over them because they beat the Washington football team twice.
And you don't even have to worry about the tie out. Right now, it's a game in hand. The Giants should be operating like they have a 1-game lead, right? That's the way they should be operating.
They should be operating that way, but for whatever reason that they stubbed their toe along the way, they always got that in their back pocket. And then when you look at teams that are somewhat I'm worried about down the stretch, I think, when I looked at it, depending on what New England did last night, which obviously they did nothing. I was going to say that it would be the Dolphins that would have to look over their shoulders, but I feel like the Colts at 8-4, because of Tennessee, I think the Colts the Colts are going up against the Dolphins, the Raiders, Tennessee to try to win the division, but if they for some reason lose to the Raiders, now they're in a wild card spot. They're thinking division, but then at some point they're going to have to start to think about being in a wild card spot because they lose to the Raiders. And I'm not so bullish on them, although the quarterback, Phillip Rivers, has turned things around slightly in not turning the football over at alarming rates or making you feel that way. But at some point in time, he could become Phillip Rivers. The pumpkin will go back to something at some point in time.
Now, that game is going to be in Las Vegas on Sunday. And one thing to mention, Key, and this is always something you want to bring up because it's the Raider audience, and you always have mentioned how they have the worldwide fan base. You mentioned the Colts, but this is a giant game for the Raiders because much like this Bucs-Vikings game, these two teams are right next to each other in the standings. It's a little bit different here. The Colts are hanging on to that 7th playoff spot, that 7th and final playoff spot in the AFC. This year we're going 7 in each conference. And the Raiders are right behind them in the 8th spot at 7-5. So this is a critical game for the Colts, as you mentioned, whether they're division dreaming with Tennessee or just trying to hang on. But this is a big game for John Gruden, too. Huge game.
Should have lost 3 in a row.
It is. Yeah. They took care of business last year against the Colts in Indianapolis, and that was kind of like a turning point for them, and then they went back to being the Raiders, right? I mean, and so when you look at it, the Raiders are not catching Kansas City within the division. They're not going to catch them. So their only hope to make it the playoffs is a wild card, where Indianapolis can still win the division if something were to go south with Tennessee.
I just I trust the Colts defense, and the Raiders haven't been playing good football at all. I mean, they lost to the Chiefs in that game that they lost to the Falcons. It was just, 43-6 was
Yeah, they didn't play good.
Right, and then against the Jets, I mean, the Jets gave them the greatest gift of all time with that last play. I don't know if I trust their offense going into that game against the Colts.
Well, both of these teams have been Jekyll and Hyde for the most part throughout the entire season. They both have, and the Raiders are at home, much like you mentioned. The interesting thing about it is they play against a team, or better yet, Phillip Rivers is going to play against a team that's very familiar with his tenure with the Chargers, whether it was in San Diego or whether it was in Los Angeles. So there's some familiarity with him at the quarterback spot. They beat up on the Indianapolis Colts, although he wasn't the quarterback for him last year when they went to Indy and won that football game. So, it's not